Ach, up, ach, up, ach. Good morning, my name is Chris Fox, and today we're talking about a villain's first appearance on the page. What do you do to present a villain in a compelling way? Now, if you've looked at some of the other videos on the channel, we do have a video that explains how to write compelling antagonists. And one of the things that we talk about in that video is demonstrating the villain's power. So the first time you're showing the villain, you usually are showing them contextually in a way that demonstrates that they're way more powerful than whoever our protagonist is. And by the point that we're seeing the villain, we already know who the protagonist is. So the example that we'll be using today is from my novel, Shattered Gods. It's an epic fantasy, and our protagonist is a 13-year-old boy. He's being sent off to war where he's expecting to die. The enemy is called the Fomori. Now, they are based on Irish folklore, so I did very little to flesh them out prior to this. You're going to get kind of a dose of that in the video as well. You'll see sort of how I fleshed out a villain very quickly. So I knew a little bit about who they were, but I needed to actually create some Fomori and create some personalities and create some factions within this, because it's not as simple as I have Darth Vader and that's my villain. I basically had to create the Empire, where it's like I needed to figure out, okay, what are they warring for? Why are they motivated to do these things? And I put a little time into that. You're going to see that in the video. I feel like when demonstrating a villain's power, oftentimes what I've talked about doing in the past is doing this in a very martial way, have them kill someone. But what you'll see is that the scene that I chose is more of a council meeting. So you've got a bunch of these shamans together. They're obviously very, very strong. They have a lot of power, and you're learning that the opponent that they're going to be fighting, who is our protagonist, has no idea how powerful they are. And they're trying to decide, okay, how much of our strength we want to show. We're definitely going to crush them, but how much of our strength do we want to show? So anyway, we'll jump into that second half of the video. Okay, so we are looking at the manuscript for Shattered Gods. Specifically, we are looking at Interlude 3, which the interludes, if you remember, are the chapters that I'm presenting from other people's perspectives. So anything that says chapter is from the first-person point of view of our protagonist, and the interludes are from other people that we need bits of information from. So one of the other major characters has already been presented. Now we're looking at the Fomori, who are my villain for the first book. So you notice the first thing here that I've got a tag underneath them that says Irish it up, and that's going to need to happen in the edit. So why I'm saying that is I am borrowing from Irish folklore. So you'll see here I have a bunch of search tabs that I left up so I can sort of show you the path that I took. And I'm putting this in air quotes, villains, the antagonists that are close to Hazra, my city, and that are going to be fighting with the legion that the protagonist is a part of. I wanted to really flesh them out. And being Irish myself, I've spent a lot of time learning about the Fomorians and about Irish folklore. And so I was doing a little bit of a refresher. So I jumped in and I spent some time reading, rereading in most cases, about who the Fomorians were and what their ancient history is. They have a very interwoven past with the Tuatha De Danann, who many of you, if you have read Patrick Rothfuss's series, The Kingkiller Chronicles, almost certainly recognize. He borrowed a lot from Irish folklore and dropped it in his book. Well, same here. You have the equivalent of like angels and demons, effectively, and these are two intermarried groups of gods that are very well known in Irish folklore. And so what I did is I took these and said, okay, how can I synthesize these into something that fits the world of Shattered Gods? And so what I needed to do specifically was assign them power. So in my universe, I have a very well-defined magic system. Well, what types of magic would the Fomori have? And so I broke them into factions. So they have a very complex, powerful catalyst, a great tree that has 3 different types of magic that are all from the parent god who gave them all life. And I broke them into 3 groups. You've got your Fomorians, you've got your Tuatha, and then you have the Avatar and the Spirit faction. And so I sort of started giving them little bits of notes. You can sort of read what I've typed here. Some of this will get used, some of it will not. Just kind of stream of consciousness, tossing ideas down here, trying to decide what these factions look like. And some of the stuff that I wrote here, by the way, did not actually make it on the page, and I changed it. So when you get a chance to read that chapter, you'll see, I made some snap decisions as I was writing. Then I needed to work on characters, and so I needed to have Maka, who is our main protagonist, as we'll see in a minute here, as well as some leaders. So I needed 2 big leaders who could talk, and then our protagonist, who's our point of view character. And I had to flesh each one of these ones out. So back to Google I went, and I looked up, okay, what are some famous Irish heroines and goddesses? And I knew a lot of them, but I wanted to find somebody who is not used everywhere. So Brigid, if you've read The Wheel of Time or know anything about Irish folklore, is used all the time. Famous archer character, lots of people know her. Queen Maeve has been redone in all sorts of contexts. Ein has been used in a number of different properties as well. We all know who the Banshee is, and I don't think she'd really fly. So I was like, okay, what am I left with? Maka. So I started looking up Maka, and as it turns out, she's perfect. She is famous for having won a horse race where she was pregnant and about to give birth. So we're talking 9 months pregnant, and she was in labor as she was in the race. And she won the race and then gave birth at the end of it. I mean, it was just crazy. So great character, thought she was interesting. Decided, okay, here's my name for Maka, and I read up on her, and I, went onto Wikipedia and learned all about her, read all of her legends, and I'm using that to synthesize this character now. This was the first thing that I looked at, and from here it sort of grows. But I just looked at this as a thumbnail, and really, you wouldn't necessarily need to do more than this initially to get started. But I would recommend putting a lot more time into researching the material that you're going to use if you're using a real world culture as inspiration for a name, as I so frequently do. You'll also see that I came to the master list of Irish mythological figures to get other names to use. And many of these I'm very familiar with, the Dagda, the Morrigan. You've seen these in games like Dragon Age. I mean, any game that has notable Irish mythology is going to use this stuff. So Earthdawn had a series of novels that used Ein as the main character. It's just everywhere. And again, Brigid is the most famous. So I made a couple of choices based on this. I was like, well, I kind of need to use the Dagda because the Dagda is the king of the Tuatha De Danann. He's one of the most favorite, and famous people. And so I used him with his name, didn't change anything. But then I was like, okay, I need somebody to be the king of the Fomorians, and traditionally that's one of the most famous figures in mythology, Baelor. But Baelor has been used all over the place, and anybody who knows fantasy mythology is going to be like, oh, you're using Baelor again. So I'm like, what if I made it a queen? And so I've got Belora. So if we go back to this file here, you'll see I've got Belora, and Belora is the queen of the Fomorians. You've got Dagda, and Dagda is the king of the Tuatha. And then you've got Maka is a young shaman in training, dispatched as a spy. So our basic plot that you're getting here is the Fomori know that Zal and this legion are marching towards them, and so they're going to try to wipe the legion out. And when the survivors of the legion flee back to Hosra, they want to seed it with spies, or at least a spy of their own. So they're going to send this girl to sort of appear to be human and infiltrate the Hosrans so that they can learn how close to collapse Hosra is. You see some infighting between our villains because some of them are very conservative and wanted to wait. Some of them were very aggressive and attacked early. So you can see them sort of fighting it out here, trying to decide what the best course is. These are my initial notes that we're scrolling through here about what the chapter was going to be. I had no idea what I was going to write. I just picked the name Lorelei out of a hat, which I think that was a TV show that had a Lorelei character. I used to watch back in the day. Gilmore Girls. Maybe my brain was supplying it from there. I didn't end up picking that name. I ended up using a much more traditional Irish name, as you saw. But that was all the notes that I had. Then I went out and I did my research. Well, then I started actually writing the chapter, and we're scrolling through that now. I've got Maka. I figured out who she was, and so I'm writing this chapter where we're seeing the Fomorians, we're seeing the Tuatha De Danann cousins, and that they're kind of sort of on equal footing. And you're learning that the Fomori grow as they age. So they start out human-sized, and they grow to be massive giants. We're seeing that some of them have heads of animals, like heads of goats, and learning more about their culture, what they value, and what types of magic they have. But you're also looking and seeing where I didn't even slow down, where for some of the side characters, I just wanted to write the chapter. So Maka's going to have somebody that is her mentor that's bringing her here, but she didn't have a large role to play in the chapter, and so I didn't take the time to flesh her out. So when I do the edit, which we'll show in the last part of the video, I have to come through and pick a name for her and fix this. And so this part here is actually going to change in the last segment. Anyway, as I'm scrolling through the chapter, you see that they're having this meeting trying to decide what to do with the Hosrans. How are we going to handle this? They keep attacking us. And so what they've been doing is building up their forces, and now they're much stronger than the Hosrans think they actually are. But they don't want the Hosrans to know that. So they're like, okay, we got to fake them out. And so they use a Hosran tradition, the decimation, to pick 10% of their forces and send them as sort of a distraction. So the Hosrans will think that they've won. And we're going to dispatch our spy at the same time. Now, the whole point of this video is about demonstrating the power of your villain. And what I wanted people to see here is that Hosra is on its last legs. They're really hurting. You've seen this in the novel up until now. If you look at the previous interlude chapters, the Royal Arena Bout and the Behemoth, we've really seen how powerful these people are. So in the Behemoth chapter, one of the other protagonists in the book, she's a secondary protagonist, Princess Lee, she's on an airship. The airship gets shot down and it crashes on a mountain. And as it turns out, this mountain is alive. It stands up. It starts devouring things. It's called a spider mountain. It's a behemoth. And so we're demonstrating this power. And here we are in the third chapter where I'm really putting the villain on screen. So we know that they exist. We know they can control these behemoths, but we haven't seen them until now. And I really want the reader to understand that the Hosrans appear to be outmatched at this point. Anyway, I will scroll through the rest of the chapter now. You can slow down the video and read this if you so desire. Scroll all the way to the bottom slowly. Another good place. So Dagda has a club, a mighty weapon, but I didn't know the name of that off the top of my head, so I just put it in a placeholder real quickly there. That will also get fixed in the edit. You can see us having our little arguments. XXX is the mentor character we were just mentioning. Keep scrolling. Okay, almost to the bottom. That's an easy fix. Balmorra, for those that don't know, is a planet in Star Wars, so I kept unconsciously typing Balmorra instead of Ballora. So that's one downside of Ballora as the name I'm substituting for Baelor. There we go. So we're down to the bottom. So you can see that I wrote this chapter. It's about 2,300 words long. Before the edit, the only thing I really need to fix is names. Just got to go through there and clean up some names. I'm going to add maybe a little bit more description. And I am going to Irish it up, meaning that the way that they speak will become more Celtic. You'll see Irish lilting speech patterns. I will flesh out each of the NPCs in the chapter, or the NPCs, each of the characters in the chapter a little bit further, and decide more about who they are, and I'll also put more time into Maka as a character. Anyway, that's a pretty good look at how I take something I haven't fleshed out, an antagonist, and very quickly come up with a culture. So I leaned very heavily on Irish folklore to flesh out my Fomori, drop some characters in. We created, as we saw here, some basic characters which get fleshed out, and then some lore around them. And now I'm actually ready to get back to writing the main plot line so that they can have their little war. But it's really tough to have the war happen if I don't know what powers my antagonist has, and if the reader doesn't know what they are. Because before you get into any sort of conflict where you're going to have the antagonist and the protagonist fight in the way that I'm about to, you absolutely need to set it up. You've got to set up your payoffs and pay off your setups. And in this case, I'm setting up this battle on both sides. I'm showing all the pieces that are involved and all the people that are worrying and the costs that are coming up that people are going to have to pay in the fight. Let's see. What else did I want to do, if anything? I will show us word count. So I haven't put in today's word count yet. I'm at 4,800 words, but I'm going to do some more writing after I finish this part of the video. So I have to finish the chapter I was in, and then I'm going to go back in and edit all the words for today, which will include that chapter we just looked at. So it's about 11:50 a.m. I have plenty of time to get that done for today. I came here for a reason, I think. What was I looking for on word counts? Oh, I think I was just showing you word counts. I think I just wanted to show you word counts. Yeah, that was it. I'm so tired and so rambly. So you can see that I'm up to 89,000 words. I will probably crank out a few 100 more, so I won't quite hit 90K today. That means that I'm up by about 12,748. Let's drop down to 150 so I can see more. My daily average is 3,195. And when I say daily average, it's not daily averages on the days that I write. That's all days for the year, so even on the days I don't write. And I changed the sheet to reflect that, because That way, when I come here, if it's been 3 days and I didn't write, it'll automatically update my numbers and scare the crap out of me, which is working really well. So as of today, I should have 76,000 words. If I write nothing and I open this tomorrow, that's going to automatically jump again by 2,740 words. So I sort of know what I need to accomplish. Anyway, let's jump into the last part of the video. It's going to flash forward in time. You will see me having edited that chapter and finished the rest of my words, and this will be updated with today's words. Okay, so it's about 1:15. As you can see, I've gone through my edit here. Didn't change much, so I will scroll through the chapter. You can slow this down and go back if you want to take a look. But mostly what I did was just replace names. Anywhere that I had an XXX, I looked up Irish names or was looking at various names of gods where it was relevant to find something that fit. The only other work that I did, we'll get down there in a second, one of the characters has a club, and I had XXX and didn't know what I was going to call it. So I went and I looked, and I was like, oh, why not Shillelagh? It's just, the first Shillelagh. So I used that for the club that Dyda will be wielding. So it's mostly just that. I added a couple of words here or there, but you can see the chapter didn't get much longer. It was 2009 words originally when I cut away the world building, and now it's 2010, so I think I added one word. I mean, not much, as you can see. Almost done scrolling through this. Scrolling to the bottom. Okay. There, so you can see that's that chapter. And you can also see over here that the novel is coming along really nicely. So we're making all sorts of progress. I think we passed 50,000 words today. Anyway, let's look at the word counts. You can see I put in today's already. It is 5,164. So my total is up to 94,632. Things are going well. What else do you need to know about plotting, about editing that you aren't seeing come across in these videos? What else can I tell you? I need to get back to the writing, and I will see you next week.